Hi, and welcome to Fabric Bias. It is June 2025, and this is my next project. I am going to be making a scissors holder that I want to hang off the side of a cart. And so I found a video that I liked, and I will link below the video. Don't remember whose it is, or I would tell you, but it will be in the description below. She makes it with 2 pieces of square fabric, plus she uses interfacing. I'm going to be using batting and stitching this in that I have already pieced together. And when she's done constructing it, or when she's done getting her inside and outside together, she just brings it together like that. And you have a scissors case. And I thought, I really like that design. However, I want to hang it. So I could just add a loop to the back here, stitch one on, but I think I want to do something a little bit different. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to take off this triangle here and stitch it back on. It's not as simple as you think. Because I will then, once I cut it off, I have to have seam allowances. So I'm just going to take a guess at where I need to cut. And right now I'm looking at from this tip to where I want to cut is about, it's between 2 1/4 and 2 1/2 inches here. And this side is 2 1/2. So I think what I'm going to do is go with a lower measurement and cut it. Nope, I'm going to go at 2 1/4. Because this will be part of the seam, and so it will bring it down automatically to that 2 1/2, because I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam. So from the tip to here, I'm going to cut off a triangle that is has the height of 2 1/2 inches. And then I'm going to try to figure out how to make another triangle that is a little bit longer. Well, it won't be hard, but to make another triangle that's a little bit longer, and so that I can piece it back together again, including the seam allowances. And then my inside piece, which I won't be doing that too because I don't need a strap on the inside, will be just this square. All right, so I am going to get to trying to figure that out at some point. I got some errands to do today first, and then I will be back in a flash. I'm getting ready to make my cut, and what I'm going to do to make sure it's a straight cut here is get this point lined up on the same line as this point, so I'm going to, and then have my ruler lined up at the 2 1/4 mark lined up straight, so I'll get a nice straight cut through here. And cross your fingers. Let's hope it works. Okay, so here's the triangle that I cut off, and this is a piece of scrap that I had of the same fabric. And if I use this piece, I'm going to place this triangle a 1/4 inch up from the bottom so I can get my seam allowance built in here. It's just a little bit too short, and I'm okay with that. That'll be actually in the seam, and I don't think it'll affect it too much. And if I need to, I could always widen my seam and make sure that that does not affect it at all. And I would rather not, get out a bigger piece. The only other chunk I have of this is a big chunk, almost this size or bigger than this size, and then I have the whole piece. I don't want to cut another small piece out of it, so I'm going to make this work for me. So I'm going to cut that out and go from there. Start piecing everything back together again. Oh, and I do still have to do some quilting. All right, still crossing my fingers. These are all the pieces I have left here. This is the triangle that I'm hoping to stitch back together here, and the piece of batting that came off of it. I can't quilt anything together, I don't think, until I have my loop on. And these are the remnant pieces, the scrap pieces. I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to cut it down and make a loop out of that. So it'll be a really small loop, which is okay, because if I need it to hang longer, I can always put a keyring or something on it, and so that's going to work. So I'm going to make a loop out of this here. That's going to be scrap, and I'm going to try to get that back together again and get it quilted once I have the loop made and sewn back into place, which is going to be interesting because I can't quilt over the loop either. So I could actually just quilt. Maybe that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to quilt this piece here, the big piece, quilt this together, quilt this one carefully, and then I will stitch them together after I get this built. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. That's my plan, is quilt this little piece. I don't know if I'll be able to make a match. I'm not sure. I'm going to worry about it. And make a loop out of this to put right in here before I stitch it back together. Okay, there's the plan. All right, I gotta go. Seriously, have to be done right now and run some errands, and then I will be back in a flash. Okay, here they are. Yep, there's 2. So this one, when I finished it, it was too small. So I did have a pair of scissors that would fit in them. One pair. I had to go search around and find a pair that would fit. And so I did. So I'll be able to use that. I don't hang, these actually tuck into a container so they don't hang, but you know, I'll have it for another time if I change my mind on where I want to hang them or put them. I'll be able to hang them. Because this was the only pair of scissors I had that would actually fit these. I do have the school type scissors that I keep around for other things and other projects that would fit. And these snippers, they would definitely fit, but they're a little bit, look, that's like, it's a little bit too deep for that. But I could definitely do that with that. So I will be able to use these. I will tell you, let's see. Well, let me show you this one. They are super, super fast to sew. So this one I did, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. This was I did with an 8-inch piece of fabric, square. And this one I did, I was going to do 10.5 because after sewing this one and being wrong, I was like, oh, I want this to be right. I'm just going to do 10.5. But the way my fabric was, 10 worked out better. And when I cut out my 10.5 square initially, so it wasn't the way the fabric worked. I just cut out a 10.5-inch square and I did the fold over, and I laid my scissor on top and I went, oh my gosh, that's going to be huge. So I went, okay, I'm going to risk it and go to 10, and 10 worked for these two pairs of scissors that I wanted to put in them. It is exactly the right size and both pairs fit. This piecing on the back worked out great. When I put it back together again, one side lined up perfectly, so I ended up with a perfect square edge on the one side. The other side, it was slightly dipped down, but within the seam allowance, so it wasn't going to be an issue. And then on this one, I remember my scrap piece was slightly too short for the tip. Well, that doesn't really matter because you cut the tips off to poke them out, and I would have cut that off anyway. So none of that was a problem at all. On this one, this piece of fabric, I had enough. It was perfect. But what I did opt to do, I will tell you on both of these, I was so focused on getting this piece, the triangle piece, back on that I totally forgot to stitch the stitch the fabric loop in there, and I had to rip it open and slide it back in on both of them. So on this one you can see I stitched across here, so the seam is here. I don't know, I don't think it'll come up on camera. I'll lift it, but I don't think it'll come up on camera. The seam is here, and then the fabric lays this way, so the raw edges are over here. So I opted to go ahead and stitch across here, just kind of hoping that that would strengthen this stitch here, because I kind of felt like when I had to stick it back in there and restitch over it, that maybe it would loosen up on me, even though I backstitched a lot. So I opted to go ahead and do it here, and I kind of like that idea. And so on this one too, I can feel that my raw edges are over here, so I may go back, because it's not too late, I may go back and actually just run a top stitch across here, because I do really like that idea, since this is hanging from there. I think that'll be really nice on that. I opted to do snaps instead of buttons, but if I did do a button, I would want to make sure that my buttonholes, I think, would go up this direction and not this direction, because I'm hanging it, and that would be pulling on my buttonhole and opening, because it's, you know, it's not attached, it's a hole. It would be pulling on the hole and opening the hole this way, whereas if I had it sewed the buttonhole this way, and it's not going to open this way because it's pulling on the top. So I'd make sure my buttonhole went this way. And I haven't tried what other scissors would fit other than the ones I have close at hand. I know my pinking shears don't fit, but that's okay. I didn't want one for my pinking shears. And I have a whole bunch of other scissors, but this was what I wanted it to work with, and this is definitely going to work. And it's going to look really nice on my cart on this bigger size. And then I'm just going to take this pair and store it, and I'm going to put those back where I keep those. So happy on this one. This is going to look great on my cart, and this one is going to just be set aside for now, but store those scissors, and yeah, that'll be awesome. So there they are. I hope you like them. I hope that wherever and whenever you're at, you're having a great time, and thanks for watching.